Just play the damn thing.
Okay, so I thought I should clarify myself a bit, and regarding this whole Epiphone headstock thing, because a bunch of you commented on that video that there were in fact other Epiphones that have in fact used the open book headstock in the past. So let me clarify a little bit more about what I was talking about. By the Gibson open book headstock, I'm talking about the one with the the standard mustache, not the raised one, but the one that's relatively level with the corners, and the corners that are roughly at about a little less than a 90-degree angle, and the Gibson logo inlaid, or in some cases it's a sticker on like some older vintage models. Right there underneath the mustache, it looks something like this. Obviously, some of the custom models, a lot of those are gonna have the binding on them. They're gonna have the diamond inlaid there in the middle. Others are not gonna have either of those things, like on a Les Paul Standard. So, but all of those are what I'm referred to by the Gibson open book headstock. Now, as I said, many of you commented that there are other Epiphones in the past that have used the open book headstock. Well, some of the examples that you guys gave me were like this one here on the an older model called the LP3, which obviously is a Les Paul version, but this is not the open book headstock. Yes, it does look similar, but if you look closer, the again the middle of the mustache is slightly elevated, and more importantly, it kind of slopes and narrows from the bottom of the headstock to the top. The Gibson open book headstock does not do that. So again, yes, very similar, but not the open book headstock. There is a visible differentiation between the two. Some others of you also pointed out headstocks like what are on the current Epiphone Prophecy Les Paul guitars. Again, that is what I referred to in the first video as I called it in that video. I called it the 2019 Epiphone headstock. It's also referred to as the Kalamazoo Epiphone. The Epiphone Kalamazoo headstock. Because it's actually a pretty old headstock design from back in the Kalamazoo days. And again, if you look closely, that one has an elevated mustache in the middle, which also makes the corners at a wider angle and not quite as sharp. So again, Epiphone headstock, not the Gibson open book headstock. A lot of you also pointed out the some of the older Epiphone guitars that were made in Japan at the Fujijin factory, as well as the Elitist guitars. I'm not sure if the Elitist guitars are made in the Fujijin factory or not, but they were all made in Japan. In the case of the Elitist guitars, again, I think most of those use the Kalamazoo headstock or a variation of it. However, what you guys were right about that I did overlook were the made in Japan Les Paul, really the made in Japan Les Paul guitars. Which here's the thing with those, and this is what that headstock does look like, and it is in fact. This is, the Epiphone version of the Gibson headstock that I just had in my hand and showed all of you. So you are absolutely correct about that. But here is why here's why I overlooked it, because it's really easy to do. They actually put 3 different headstocks on that guitar. There was a run there that had, the Gibson open book headstocks, as we just established. But then I can't remember. I think that was the earliest part of the run, but I might be mistaken about that. But eventually, then they moved on to more of the Kalamazoo style headstock, and then eventually they just went to the traditional Epiphone headstock, the one that looks like this. And from the front, it would be really, really difficult to tell the difference between that, between this guitar and one of those guitars. The LPC, I can't remember if it was the 80 or the 90 that was the 3 pickup. I think it was the 90. Not that it matters. But from the front, that's what it looked like. The only visible way that you could differentiate is on the back. It said made in Japan. But here's the thing. With any of those guitars, particularly the ones with the open book headstock, they are as rare as hen's teeth, at least over here in the U.S. I've been in the MI business, specializing in guitars for over 15 years now. and I have never seen one. Never. Outside of a photograph, anyway. I've never run across one. They are that rare. And just to give a reference, the Epiphone Elitist guitars are also pretty rare. But I've run into a few of those over even just over the last 10 years or so. Those are out there. The LPC 80, the LPC 90, the LPS 80 or 90, I can't remember what those models were, but all those guitars out of that particular run of Japanese-made Epiphones, I've never seen a single one of them over here. So they are really, really hard to get in some parts of the world, at least the part of the world that I'm in. I'm sure some of you are probably going to, so there's a couple of them listed on Reverb. Here's one on eBay right now. Yeah, probably, but, I didn't say they were impossible to find, but you just don't see them pop up over here in that, really very often at all. So that's, should I have included them? Yeah, I should have, but again, just because of their rarity in my part of the world, that's the reason why I overlooked them. Well, one other that you guys pointed out, a couple of you sent me some messages about, left some comments about some of the acoustics that they had the right, Epiphone acoustics that they actually did have the open book headstock, but they also had that weird white Epiphone logo plate thing that went on it. And Gibson, to my knowledge anyway, has never done that. Gibson has always had their logo inlaid, or or like I said, on vintage ones, it was like a silk screen kind of thing. So to my knowledge, the actual headstock, yeah, the shape is right, but the logo is nothing that I've ever seen on a Gibson anywhere. So so again, I want to clarify that what I was referring to as the open book headstock is the actual headstock as a whole. The entire shape of the headstock, as well as the logo and all the other details, not just the shape of the mustache. So that's all. For those of you that watched that video, thank you for doing so. It actually did seem to generate a fair amount of interest from all of you. But I wanted to make this video because I realized that I apparently wasn't very clear in what I meant in that video. So here we are. Adios.